Chapter 1. Beginnings. The story unfolds in a society where class and race dictate one's fate, shaping every aspect of life. Eleanor Montgomery, raised in privilege and wealth, finds herself suffocated by expectations that dictate her future. She is expected to marry well, maintain social decorum, and uphold family traditions. Yet, deep down, she longs for something more meaningful than material luxury. On the other side of the societal divide is Daniel Carter, a hardworking young man from a struggling working-class neighborhood. Unlike Eleanor, he has spent his life battling societal restrictions, yearning for opportunities that seem out of reach. His determination to break free from his circumstances is driven by an unyielding ambition and a refusal to be defined by his social status. Their fates intertwine at a grand public library, one of the few places where individuals from different worlds can exist within the same walls, albeit separated by invisible boundaries. Eleanor, escaping the stifling company of her social circle, wanders into an old book section, eager to lose herself in literature rather than conform to the shallow conversations of her peers. Daniel, on the other hand, is there researching scholarship opportunities, seeking an education that might offer him a way out of his predetermined path. Their first encounter is brief yet charged with curiosity. Eleanor is captivated by Daniel's depth of knowledge, his passion for learning, and the quiet confidence that sets him apart from the entitled men she is accustomed to. Daniel, initially wary, is surprised by Eleanor's genuine interest in his aspirations and struggles. Their conversation, though tentative, sparks an undeniable connection. A meeting of minds that transcends the rigid social structure they are bound to. As they part ways, both are left contemplating the significance of their encounter. Eleanor realizes how little she truly understands about the world outside her privileged bubble, while Daniel is left questioning whether someone like Eleanor could ever truly see him beyond the label society has placed upon him. It is the beginning of something neither of them anticipated, something that will soon challenge everything they have been taught about love, identity, and belonging. Chapter 2. A Chance Encounter. Eleanor and Daniel meet again by chance, this time in the quiet corner of a cafe tucked away from the city's bustling streets. The cafe, a cozy refuge with the scent of freshly brewed coffee and shelves lined with old books, is a place neither of them would typically frequent. Eleanor, drawn by an inexplicable urge, finds herself there, escaping the suffocating grip of her social obligation. Daniel, having just finished a grueling shift at his part-time job, is engrossed in a book, momentarily lost in a world where dreams seem tangible. Their eyes meet across the room, and in that moment, time slows. The air between them is heavy with unspoken thoughts as they cautiously begin a conversation. Their words, at first guarded, gradually take on weight and meaning. Eleanor confesses her frustration with the rigid expectations placed upon her, how every decision in her life has already been made for her, how she feels trapped in a narrative written by someone else. Daniel, in turn, shares his exhaustion, his endless struggle to prove himself in a world that refuses to see his worth. Their emotions intertwine, forming a bridge over the divide that separates their worlds. Eleanor listens intently, captivated by Daniel's raw honesty. His words carry none of the rehearsed pleasantries she is accustomed to, none of the artificial charm displayed by the men in her social circle. He speaks with passion, conviction, and a kind of sincerity she has never encountered before. She is drawn to his perspective, the way he challenges everything she has been taught to believe. Daniel, however, remains cautious. He has seen fleeting curiosity before, witnessed privileged people momentarily fascinated by the struggles of those beneath them, only to retreat back into their comfortable lives. But Eleanor's persistence intrigues him. She listens, truly listens, as if she genuinely wants to understand. Their conversation stretches on longer than either of them intended, interrupted only by the occasional clinking of coffee cups and murmurs of other patrons. Neither of them wants to leave, yet they both know this moment cannot last forever. As they prepare to part ways, an undeniable truth lingers in the air between them. Something has shifted. Eleanor, once so certain of her place in the world, is now questioning everything. Daniel, used to being invisible in the eyes of people like her, wonders for the first time if someone from the other side truly sees him. The divide between them remains vast, but for a fleeting moment it feels as though it has begun to shrink. Chapter 3. Forbidden Feelings. As days pass, Eleanor and Daniel find themselves irresistibly drawn to each other, despite the inevitable consequences of their growing bond. Their secret meetings become more frequent, stolen moments hidden in the folds of the city where the rigid expectations of their respective worlds momentarily cease to exist. Under the glow of moonlight, in deserted alleyways, in the hushed silence of abandoned libraries, their conversations deepen, their laughter becoming a sanctuary, and their unspoken fears a thread that weaves them even closer. Eleanor begins to see her world through new eyes. The luxuries she has always taken for granted, ornate chandeliers, glistening silverware, grand halls echoing with hollow laughter, now seem devoid of meaning. The carefully curated conversations of high society, the scripted gestures of aristocratic courtship, hold no allure for her anymore. Instead, she finds herself yearning for Daniel's unfiltered honesty, his unwavering determination, and the raw, unshaken passion in his voice when he speaks of a world that could be different. For Daniel, the struggle is no less intense. His entire life has been spent in the margins of society, where he has learned to expect nothing beyond what the world has allotted for him. Loving Eleanor is a defiance of everything he has been told, an impossible dream, a reckless gamble that threatens his future, his reputation, and even his safety. Every fleeting moment with her is a paradox, a glimpse into what could be, and a reminder of what can never be. He tells himself to walk away, to spare them both from the inevitable heartbreak, but the mere thought of losing her is a pain greater than any consequence he might face. Their love is fragile, like a candle flickering against a merciless wind. Every stolen meeting carries with it the heavy knowledge that one misstep could bring disaster. The world will not accept them, they know this. The whispers in Eleanor's household are growing louder, and Daniel's friends have already begun to warn him. But love, they realize, is not always a choice. It is an unstoppable force, unbound by class, reason, or fear, and so, even as shadows close in around them, they cling to each other for as long as fate will allow, knowing that even a moment of true love is worth risking everything. Chapter 4. The Weight of Society. As Eleanor and Daniel's relationship deepens, the walls of society begin to close in around them. Eleanor's family starts to notice the subtle but undeniable changes in her demeanor, her distant gaze, her reluctance to attend social gatherings, and her disinterest in the carefully curated suitors presented to her. At first, her parents dismiss it as a phase, but As rumors spread about her spending time outside the circles of the elite, concerns turn into warnings. At elegant dinner parties and high-profile events, whispers follow Eleanor, speculation growing about her absences and her sudden disinterest in the expectations set upon her. Her mother, a woman deeply invested in social reputation, pulls her aside, demanding answers. Eleanor attempts to hide the truth, but her reluctance to conform is evident. She is warned in no uncertain terms that her actions could lead to disgrace, not only for herself, but for her entire family. Meanwhile, in Daniel's world, the pressure is just as relentless but manifests in different ways. His friends and mentors, men who have fought their entire lives for dignity in an unforgiving system, caution him about getting too close to someone from Eleanor's world. They remind him that love, no matter how pure, does not erase the harsh realities of class and privilege. She can walk away, they tell him. You cannot. The burden of their love becomes heavier with each passing day. Every stolen glance, every meeting in the shadows, carries the weight of their defiance against a society that is unwilling to bend. They know that if they continue down this path, there will be consequences. Yet, neither can let go, even as the world watches, waiting for them to break. Chapter 5. Secret Meetings. Determined to hold on to what they have, Eleanor and Daniel become masters of secrecy. They learn the unspoken language of glances and gestures, of coded messages hidden in casual words. Their stolen moments are brief but profound, existing in the quiet shadows of the world that seeks to keep them apart. Their clandestine meetings are filled with hushed whispers and hurried embraces. Eleanor slips past the watchful eyes of her family, using carefully crafted excuses to leave her home. She learns to walk with purpose in public, her outward composure concealing the fire that burns beneath her polite facade. Daniel, equally careful, times his movements precisely, weaving through dimly lit alleys and taking advantage of the city's labyrinthine streets to avoid being seen. The act of meeting becomes an intricate dance, rehearsed and perfected with each passing day. They find sanctuary in abandoned buildings, hidden corners of parks, and the dimly lit back rooms of sympathetic shopkeepers. Time is both their enemy and their most treasured gift. Every second together is a victory, every minute a defiance against the forces that wish to keep them apart. They talk about their dreams, their fears, and the life they wish they could share openly. They imagine a world where their love does not have to hide, where they can walk hand in hand without fear of retribution. Yet with each meeting, the weight of reality presses down upon them. Eleanor's absences become noticeable, her family growing suspicious of her increasingly frequent disappearances. Daniel's friends warn him of the whispers circulating in their community, cautioning him that love across the class divide is dangerous. The tension around them thickens, an invisible force pushing against the fragile space they have carved for themselves. Still, they refuse to stop. Their love, though fragile, is the most real thing they have ever known. It is a beacon in the darkness, a force more powerful than fear, and so they continue to risk everything, knowing that one wrong step could destroy them both, but also knowing that not taking the risk would destroy them in another way, one far more painful and enduring. Their stolen moments become the only thing that feels real in a world built on pretense. Eleanor's heart races whenever she steps outside her family's estate, slipping past maids and guards who are trained to keep watch over her. Daniel, careful and cautious, takes winding back alleys and secret pathways to ensure they are never seen together. Their meetings are brief, their conversations urgent and filled with longing. They speak of a future where love is not dictated by class or race, where they can exist freely without fear of reprisal. But with every secret meeting, the risk of exposure grows. Eleanor's absence is noticed by her family, who begin to question her whereabouts. Daniel's friends warn him that whispers have started to circulate about his involvement with someone of higher status. Despite their careful planning, suspicion follows them like a shadow, and with each encounter, the stakes grow impossibly higher. Still, they cannot stop. Their love, though fragile, is the only thing in their lives that feels true, and so they continue to risk everything, knowing that one wrong step could destroy them both. Chapter 6. The Cost of Love. As the reality of their love sets in, Eleanor and Daniel find themselves at a breaking point. What once felt like an exhilarating rebellion against societal expectations has now transformed into a constant struggle for survival. Their love, no longer just an intimate bond between two hearts, has become a battleground, an active defiance that invites relentless scrutiny and hostility. Eleanor's once indifferent parents now monitor her every move with an iron grip. Her mother, terrified of scandal and social disgrace, forbids her from leaving the estate unchaperoned. Every visit outside is now accompanied by her governess or a trusted maid, eyes watching, ears listening, ensuring that Eleanor does not stray beyond the confines of her predetermined life. Her father, an influential figure with a reputation to uphold, delivers his final warning: sever ties with Daniel, or be cast out from the family name, fortune, and legacy. The comforts of her privileged life morph into a prison, the walls closing in on her, the weight of expectation pressing heavily against her resolve. Daniel, too, feels the cost of their love pressing down on him with suffocating intensity. The whispers in his workplace have turned into outright warnings. His employer, once tolerant of his ambition, now makes it clear that associating with Eleanor is a dangerous liability. Men like you don't get to dream beyond their station, he is told, the veiled threat hanging in the air like a noose. Friends who once admired his determination now look at him with caution, wary of the storm he has brought upon himself. Every step he takes toward Eleanor threatens not only his own future, but that of his struggling family, who cannot afford to lose the meager income he provides. They try to hold on to their stolen moments, to the love that once felt invincible, but the world around them refuses to bend. The more they resist, the more society fights back. The whispers turn to accusations, the judgment turns to rejection. The consequences are no longer just looming threats, they are now undeniable realities. Their stolen moments, once filled with hope, now carry a sense of impending doom, the thrill of secrecy replaced by the weight of fear. As Eleanor sits confined within her family's mansion, staring out at the sprawling city that now feels so far beyond her reach, she wonders if love alone is enough. Daniel, standing on the dimly lit streets, weighed down by uncertainty, asks himself the same question. Can they continue to fight, knowing that the war may never be won? And so they must decide. Surrender to the crushing weight of expectation, or risk everything for a love that defies the rules. The cost of love has never been clearer, and whatever choice they make will shape their destinies forever. The question is no longer whether they love each other. It is whether love is worth the price they must pay. Chapter 7. Whispers and Rumors. What began as hushed whispers among the elite soon evolves into full-fledged accusations. The very air around Eleanor and Daniel seems to crackle with speculation, judgment, and suspicion. Their clandestine meetings, once shrouded in secrecy, have now become the subject of relentless gossip. Each passing day brings a new wave of scrutiny, each glance from a stranger carrying an unspoken warning. The world around them is watching, waiting for their love to collapse under the pressure of its own impossibility. Eleanor's family is the first to react with swift and brutal precision. Her parents summon her for an urgent meeting, their faces lined with the deep creases of disappointment and anger. Her mother, usually the picture of cold composure, unleashes a torrent of warnings about the ruinous path she is walking. Her father, the very embodiment of societal expectation, delivers a final ultimatum: sever ties with Daniel or risk losing everything. The weight of their words is suffocating, but Eleanor stands firm, unwilling to betray the only love she has ever known. Meanwhile, Daniel is battling his own war. The one-sided foundation of his friendships begins to crumble as his closest confidants warn him of the consequences of his defiance. They remind him that Eleanor has the privilege of choice. She can walk away unscathed. But he, a man of lesser means, will be left to bear the brunt of the backlash alone. His employer's once friendly demeanor turns icy, and veiled threats about his job security begin to surface. Even his family urges him to abandon the relationship before it destroys him. But Eleanor and Daniel refuse to surrender. Their love, though fragile and worn by the relentless storm of societal disapproval, is the only thing that feels real in a world built on pretense. They cling to each other amidst the chaos, their stolen moments now filled with both defiance and fear. The illusion of control they once held over their fate begins to disintegrate, and the terrifying reality sets in. They are standing on the edge of a battle that could cost them everything. As the rumors morph into threats and the pressure becomes unbearable, they are forced to ask themselves, is their love worth the war ahead? Or will they be forced to make the most painful decision of their lives? Chapter 8. A choice to make. As the pressure from society intensifies, Eleanor and Daniel find themselves at a crossroads. Every whisper, every judgmental glance, and every warning from their loved ones echo in their minds as they struggle with the enormity of their decision. The life they have known, the comfort of familiarity, the expectations of their families, and the stability of their social circles stands on one side, on the other an uncertain but hopeful future together, built on love yet fraught with adversity. Eleanor, once confident in her defiance, begins to feel the crushing weight of her family's expectations. Her father's threats of disinheritance and the cold distance growing between her and her mother are suffocating. She sees the pain in their eyes, the fear that her love for Daniel is not just a scandal, but a betrayal of everything they worked for. The idea of severing ties with her family, never again stepping foot in the grand halls of her childhood home, terrifies her more than she expected. Daniel too wrestles with doubt. His world, already unforgiving, has grown even harsher. The loss of friendships, the hostility from those who once supported him, and the looming fear of losing his job make him question whether love is enough to endure the struggle ahead. He cannot bear the thought of Eleanor giving up everything for him, nor can he stand to see her suffer because of their love. The weight of responsibility sits heavily on his shoulders, knowing that a future with Eleanor means endless battles against the barriers society has placed between them. As they stand together in the dim glow of a secluded alleyway, hands clasped tightly as if holding on to the last remnants of their hope, they both know the decision they must make. Do they walk away from each other to protect what little remains of their former lives? Or do they take the leap into the unknown, risking everything for the chance to build a life together? With hearts pounding and tears brimming in their eyes, Eleanor and Daniel take one final moment to breathe in the reality of their love. The weight of their choice lingers, heavy and unforgiving. Whatever they decide will shape the rest of their lives for better or worse. And as the night stretches before them, they know there is no turning back. Chapter 9. Consequences. The weight of Eleanor and Daniel's choice crashes down on them with relentless force. Whether they stand together or are forced apart, the ramifications of their love story extend far beyond their own lives. Society, rigid and unforgiving, demands its due, ensuring that those who dare defy its rules do not escape unscathed. If they choose to stay together, they face immediate exile from the worlds they once knew. Eleanor, stripped of her family name and financial security, steps into an uncertain future where love must serve as their sole foundation. The once grand halls of her childhood estate are now inaccessible, her parents disowning her in the name of preserving their reputation. Daniel, already accustomed to hardship, now carries the burden of ensuring their survival, his career prospects dwindling as whispers of his defiance spread through the community. Every day is a test of their resilience, their love challenged by forces they cannot control. But if they part ways, the scars of their love remain, carving deep into their souls. Eleanor, forced to marry within her class, moves through life as a shadow of herself, a prisoner within the golden cage she once sought to escape. She smiles at elegant gatherings, converses with suitors who will never understand the fire that once burned in her heart, but at night she dreams of alleyway whispers and stolen kisses, of a love that society deemed unacceptable. Daniel, meanwhile, throws himself into his work, striving to build a future that might have once included Eleanor. He carries her memory like a hidden wound, a pain that never quite fades, a reminder of what could have been. Their story is not just theirs alone. It ripples through their families, their communities, and the very foundation of the society they challenged. Some see them as cautionary tales, proof that stepping beyond one station leads to ruin. Others see them as revolutionaries, brave souls who, even if they did not succeed, dared to show that love is a force greater than the laws that bind it. In the end, whether together or apart, Eleanor and Daniel's love does not die. It lingers in the air, in the echoes of conversations, in the eyes of those who dare to dream of a world where love is not dictated by class or race, but by the strength of the human heart. And perhaps, in some distant future, their sacrifices will not have been in vain. Chapter 10. A Love Remembered. No matter what happens, their love story will never be forgotten. It becomes a symbol of defiance, a testament to the courage it takes to challenge the unyielding norms of society. For generations, their story is told and retold, sometimes as a warning, other times as an inspiration, but always as a reminder of the power of love in the face of adversity. Eleanor and Daniel's choices ripple far beyond their own lives. Some see them as reckless, their love a futile rebellion against an immovable world. Others see them as visionaries, two souls who dare to dream beyond the restrictions imposed upon them. Their story becomes legend, whispered in secret places where hearts yearn for something more, something true. Their love, though met with opposition, sparks conversations that had long been suppressed. Activists invoke their names, writers immortalize them in poetry, and young lovers draw strength from their defiance. Over time, the rigid structures that once kept people apart begin to crack, giving way to a more just and compassionate society. And though Eleanor and Daniel may not have lived to see this transformation, their love is remembered as a part of that change, a force that challenged the status quo and refused to be erased. As the years pass, their story is adapted in novels, plays, and even films, each version offering new perspectives, but always carrying the same message: that love is worth fighting for. Monuments are erected in their honor, their names etched into the hearts of those who dare to defy the limits imposed by the world. And whether in tragedy or triumph, their story leaves a mark on history, proving that even in a divided world, love has the power to endure, to inspire, and to shape the future. Their love was not just theirs, it belongs to everyone who has ever dreamed of a world where love knows no boundaries.